And we closed last week just talking about the need to have the right people in your boss, right? Everything takes people, right? Let's start from our own individual lives. There's so much I need to do. I cannot do it alone, right? It takes a team to run my life for me, right? So I have a friend when I need to go to the farm. I'm not used to driving on Nigerian roads because I'm not sure. I'm a speed driver, right? So I know myself, and I don't want to expose myself to the roads of Nigeria that I'm not used to, because I'm just going to hit a bump or pothole or something. So when I need to go to the farm, I have a dear friend who was able to help me in that place of my weakness, right? I have a farm manager. I can't be on my farm every time. I have a full-time job, right? I have farm workers that work for me. I met a friend last month. She's way ahead in the farming business. She's able to help me get the farm workers and several other things she's helping me with, right? Only 2 days ago, while trying to buy fuel, I met someone who is open to take some of my products, right, into the supermarket, chain of supermarket, right? You need people, right? So those are all people outside, inside. You need people to run your life, right? To do things you cannot do, because we all have strengths and weaknesses, right? There's no use banging my head. Peter Drucker tells us that you don't build excellence on your weaknesses. You build excellence on your strengths, right? The easiest thing to do with your weaknesses is to delegate them. Get people who your weakness is their own strength, right? And they can take care of that for you. There's no use you hitting your head over your weaknesses, right? Rather spend your time on your strengths. Use your strength. That's the way you can build excellence. That's the way you can build momentum, right? It's on your strength. You don't build momentum on your weaknesses, right? You delegate it to those that can do that for you, while you build strength. You build your momentum. You build for the future your strength, right? So you need a team. So with that, you need the right people on the bus, to help you. When it comes to employment, you gotta employ the people you want. The canary can work for me because we have standards, we have values, right, that we run our business on, and I run my life on. So not everybody can work for me, right? So when we'll go hiring people, we have that at the back of our mind. So that's where we ended last week. So we're going to take this from this, continue where we ended last week, and we'll talk about you need to have your discipline taught, right? Your mind needs to be disciplined, if you want to make changes correctly, because you need your mind, right, to be able to harness the environment and know the opportunities to seek the right decisions, listening to your gut, listening to your intuition, standing against opposition, making discussions, relating with other people. Your mind, needs to be disciplined enough to be able to make sure that you have a positive result from your engagements, right? And you also need that of the people that work for you, right? So Bethany in her book says, if you take the emotion out of your thinking, look around you and ask questions, read the news, put the pieces together, you will develop a good instinct for making decision based on the truth of the situation. You need to take this, what she's trying to say is take the sentiments away from your decision. If you're going to move forward, then you have to be brutally honest with yourself, right? I was just joking with someone on Facebook this morning. We're talking about Casimiro, and I was calling him a tall, that's a handsome gentleman, right? So I made mention of someone else who is not that handsome. You don't have to run away from the truth, because the truth is the truth, right? You can never win against the truth. You can never win against the laws of nature. You can never win against the principles of life, right? You're either going to make them your friends, or they'll become your enemies, and you can never win against them, right? So if you want to win, you want them to be on your side. You want to use them, because they're always true, right? So you take away these emotions, take away the sentiments. It is what it is. Line up with the truth, or line up with the principles of life, line up with the laws of nature, and they will carry you, right? So there's no sentiment in business. I was in another committee discussing yesterday, and they were talking about giving some freebies to some people. And I said, hey, man, this is business, right? When you cross that border between the US and Mexico, right? The difference between the places on both sides of that border, right, is the ability to use your mind and throw away sentiments, right? It's light and it's day and night as you cross that border, right? The US is day, Mexico is night, right? You're back in Africa once you cross that border, and they're just so close to one another. All it takes is someone using their mind and throwing away sentiment, right? And doing the right things, right? And you can go from whatever you are, you can go from a bad situation to a good situation to a great situation, and you can build it to last. It doesn't have to be a fluke. You can build it to last, right? But you have to take away the sentiments. You have to be sincere to yourself, first of all, and then to others, right? Be sincere to yourself, and take notice of the brutal facts of life, the truth of life, right? If you deceive yourself, then you're building on a wrong foundation, right? And the storms of life will come to test your foundation, right? And if your foundation are not built on things that are solid on the rock, your whole house, your whole company will be blown away, right? So Bethany further says in her book, she says, bottom line, think about reality, not just the daydream, right? Think about what is, right? It's good to have a daydream. You can have your fantasies, what you want things to be. There's nothing wrong with that, right? That is the future. But you cannot get to the future without respecting the present. You cannot start building the first story building without putting the foundation. You cannot start putting a ground floor without having a foundation, right? You have to make the foundation secure for the kind of building you're trying to put on it, right? So you have to accept the reality. You have to accept where you are today, right? Where you are today is your foundation, right? You have to build from there. You cannot put them up, deceive yourself, lie to yourself about where you are, because that forms a foundation of what you want to build, right? So as Bethany would say here, think about reality, right? Because reality is your foundation, right? Not just the daydream, which is your first floor, second floor, your skyscraper. You have to get the foundation right before you can put the skyscraper on it. But stay in touch with your gut, right? Stay in touch with your gut. Even though you're recognizing reality, know that that is not your limit, right? You can get to your daydream. It just takes work. It takes discipline. You can get to your daydream, but you have to do the work that is required, right? Believe in your God, believe in your tuition, right? Believe in yourself, right? Are conditions right in the market for the idea? So you have to ask yourself the thing you want to do. How does it relate with the market itself? Like my wife would always say concerning our farm, that whatever we plant, we need to have a market for it, right? Because it's no use just planting and you can't market it, right? We're not in the farming business for the sake of farming. We're in it to be able to sell to the market in a way that is profitable, right? So you have to ask yourself, I want to plant so and so. Do I have a market for it? Is there a market for it? And that market that is for it, is there money in it, right? So what problem is it you're solving? And is there a great need for that problem to be solved, right? It's one thing to solve a problem, but is it economical solving that problem, right? For us, last year, most of the things we sold, right? We sold at the market, at the village market. We made nothing. We made a loss compared to what we put in. But that was a learning process. That was a market we could easily go to, right? We're planning this year to go past that, right? We've learned how to plant. We've learned how to harvest, Now we need to learn how to market, right? We didn't make money last year. We're planning to cancel all of those errors, right? And take it to a market that is worthy of the label that we put in, right? So it's not just about planting, it's not about solving a problem. It's about making that solution economical, right? You're looking for the place where where it makes all the trouble you're going through worthy of it, right? So remember too that the best ideas are often the simplest, right? So so she's saying here that there's a need to remember that even the best ideas are often the simplest. It doesn't have to be complex, for it to be right. Right? It doesn't have to be complex for it to be right. Just because an idea is not complex doesn't mean that it's not the right answer, right? So don't be taken away aback because something is simple and think that it won't work. No, it's complex doesn't mean that it won't work, right? So it's about the solution. It's not about, even the best, like she said, best solution is often the simplest because, yeah, like, what's his name now? Albert Einstein would say, if you're not able to explain something to a little child, then you don't know it, right? But if you're able to break it down to the simplest fragment of it, you're able to explain it to that child because you have understood it as yourself. And it takes understanding to apply, to implement, right? So I love simplicity. I break down things so as the smallest bit possible, because that's who I am. I am a teacher. So I have to be able to understand things at the first principles, because then it's easy for me to communicate it to someone else. If I don't understand it, then I can teach someone else. I'm a teacher, right? I'm a trainer, right? I'm a coach. So I need to understand things at their minutest fundamental level. Then it's easy for me to play around in explaining it. Some people call me a wordsmith, right? That I'm able to use words in different ways. I'm only able to do that because I have an understanding of what I'm trying to say, right? When you have an understanding of what you're trying to say, then you're in control, right? You can turn it in several ways to communicate the same thing, right? It's the same. It's like we say, when amateurs are bound by rules, but when you understand the rules, then you can play around with the rules, because the rules are pretty much written in blood to avoid you having to repeat the same incidents that others have gone through. But when you have an understanding of those incidents, right, then you're not necessarily bound by someone else's conclusion, right? Because then you're going back to the first principles and you're doing the same thing they are trying to do, which is avoid a shipwreck, right? But that takes a bit of mastery as you go along, right? So let's go.